So, y'all are doing this on page 40. We're going to take some notes for our test tomorrow. So, our Unit 7 test review. First things first. I know y'all have been on a long break. What have we been learning about? Plate tectonics and boundaries, and what else?
The movement.
Topographic maps. Those are our two main concepts, right? So, first thing we're going to talk about is plate boundaries. So, we know that there is a theory that tectonic plates drifted through this theory called continental drift. Does anybody know who thought of that theory or who created that theory?
Wegener.
Alfred Wegener, okay? And I don't know if I'm saying that right, but there is a building on A&M's campus that's named like that, and it's spelled very similar, so I'm just going to go with Wegener. So Alfred Wegener, he proposed the idea that there was this theory that the continents drifted apart. And when he proposed it, everybody thought he was absolutely crazy. They didn't believe him until years and years later when more scientists said, oh, you know what? The magma is moving underneath the plates. So maybe maybe his theory was correct. Maybe he could be right and say that the plates did move. Okay? All right? So, we have different types of boundaries. What are our three different types of boundaries that we learned about?
Convergent, divergent, transform.
Convergent, divergent, and transform. Convergent boundaries, we know, go towards each other. They make what, you said?
Mountains.
They do, okay? Convergent boundaries most likely are going to make mountains, okay? They can create other landforms like volcanic islands, mountains, continental volcanoes. Both of them will not, but can somebody, he said, will they ever push down, making like a V? Both of them will not go into each other, but what is that called whenever one goes underneath the other? Subduction, right? So yes, you will have a subduction which looks like this, which creates a trench, okay? It creates a deep ocean trench in that subduction zone. So convergent boundaries can make all these different types of landforms. The most common is mountains or volcanic islands. What is continental volcanoes? Just volcanoes on land. Very good.
Did you take some ibuprofen or something this morning?
At 2 this morning.
Yeah, I couldn't even sleep last night.
Okay. Our next type of boundary is what?
Divergent boundary.
Divergent. And what do we know about divergent boundaries?
They move apart.
They move apart.
Yeah.
What is the most common landform that is created?
No.
San Andreas Fault is not a divergent boundary.
Oh, that's mountains.
Valleys.
What are these called right here?
Mid-ocean ridges.
Mid-ocean ridges. Guys, about 90% of divergent boundaries are going to create these mid-ocean ridges. Now, mid-ocean ridges are cool because mid-ocean ridges then form into volcanoes. Okay? Okay. Divergent boundaries can also form ocean basins, which we talked about. Shallow seas, which is like an ocean basin. It can be called a shallow sea, but it's most commonly called an ocean basin. Valleys and plateaus. And most times when you have divergent boundaries, where are they located? 90% of divergent boundaries happen where?
In the ocean.
In the ocean. Where is the one place that it is found on land?
San Andreas.
No, San Andreas is a fault. That is not a divergent boundary. California is not divergent.
Mountain ranges.
Where is it found in the world where you can actually see a divergent boundary?
Iceland.
Iceland, yes. Okay, Iceland is the only place where you can actually see a divergent boundary. Every other place, divergent boundaries happen underwater.
Wait, why can you see it in Iceland?
Because Iceland's on land.
But we're on land.
But there's none that are in here, that are in our, every divergent boundary happens underwater, in the ocean. Except for there is one that runs through Iceland.
But Iceland's so tiny.
Yes, through Iceland, right here. Okay?
Iceland's that little place.
Iceland's
It's
a
a
little
little
island
white
off
thing
the
on
coast
top.
of the UK, and it's like this big, and everybody's super smart there, and I guess they have a divergent boundary there.
Yes, they have a divergent boundary there. So that is the only place. Now, we talked about mid-ocean ridges and how they form. And because most divergent boundaries happen underwater, what is another thing that they can call mid-ocean ridges, or the spreading of plates under the ocean?
Ocean ball.
Sea floor spreading. I heard it back there.
Sea
Sea floor spreading. Do not make fun of me right now. Stop. I can't talk. I can barely breathe.
They say laughter is the best medicine.
I can't laugh because my jaw hurts so bad.
Are you sure?
I got myself sick by going boat riding in 50-degree weather.
Okay?
I don't
So,
know.
divergent boundaries or mid-ocean ridges can also be known as seafloor spreading.
Sea force spreading.
Okay?
What's our volcano named after?
All right? Next, we have transform boundaries. Transform boundaries are boundaries that move along each side of each other. A lot of people say that this particular fault is a divergent boundary because they just don't have knowledge about it, and because you'll just throw out an answer. But the San Andreas Fault in California is one of the most well-known boundaries, transform boundaries, and it's most well-known because it's here in the United States, but also because it's on land and we can actually see it happening.
California's
Can
in
you
the
feel
United
it?
States. Is it huge?
What do you mean, can you feel it? Well, what happens when these plates move?
Earthquake.
They're moving.
Earthquakes. So you can feel the earthquakes.
Aren't they moving right now? And there's like tiny earthquakes.
Plates only move about how many centimeters per year?
0.5? It's
About
very-
5 to 10 centimeters
As
every
much
year.
as your nail grows.
Okay? They move as fast as your nail grows. That's right. All right. We know that transform boundaries also create earthquakes when they move. Now, let's talk about the movement of these plates, okay? What causes these plates to move? We kind of already talked about that, but what causes them to move? The magma is constantly moving under the mantle, right? And because of that constant movement, that is creating a what force? What type of force is that creating? Okay, let's go back to Newton's laws. When there are movements,
An action
talking about that.
What?
Yes, we are.
I just said
Pay
it.
attention.
She said you and man.
Okay, when something is moving, guys, that means a what force is acting upon it? An unbalanced force is acting upon it. So, guys, hello, I'm the one talking and teaching right now. Y'all should be the ones listening, not talking to your neighbor. Okay, so when you have all these boundaries moving different directions, some are transformed, some are divergent, some are convergent. What is really moving is the magma, and that magma creates an unbalanced force that causes these plates to move. Okay? Do you have a question, Juan? Jeremiah?
Can both of the plates move the same way?
Yes, they can, just like this right here.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if they don't move at the same pace, then it would cause a different landform. But yes,
You said, wait. A fault is where the plates meet, right?
right,
So there are different faults on land, right?
sure.
What kind of
So like a fault would be when you have two plates that are moving. A fault is created when you have two plates that are moving alongside each other in opposite directions. So that's why it's called the San Andreas fault, because the San Andreas fault, you have one plate moving to the left and one plate moving to the right. So whenever they move, they crack that land. A fault is just a big crack in the land. Okay? So this right here then creates a fault.
What makes whirlpools?
Wait. We're not learning about that section, Maya.
That right there creates a fault, which is a crack in the earth. Okay?
So
Any questions on this stuff?
I'm not done, right?